Now we've heard from the robotic voice, we can continue. I'm delighted to welcome Vladimir Chuprov as the guest speaker for the post-Soviet press group at UCLC's today. Vladimir is campaign director for Greenpeace Russia. From 2001 to 2020, Vladimir was the energy unit head of Greenpeace Russia, becoming the campaign director in 2020. Last year, he was also co-chair of the Civil BRICS Climate and Environment Working Group. There is a link in the chat to a report that Vladimir has co-authored on the very topic that he's going to be speaking to the group about, and that is climate and energy policy in Russia. So without further ado, Vladimir, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Over to you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for invitation. Thanks especially for Natalie, who brought me to this group, for this audience. Nice to meet you, especially my countrymen. I see a lot of Russian names here. And for me, it was very surprised to see so high interest to Russia from the UK, from abroad. I don't think that in Russia we have the same groups or interest to internal policy and life in outside of Russia. Before I start my presentation, maybe a half minute about the situation with COVID. I also have to, of course, I have to follow as other people this issue. At the moment, the background of the statement of Mrs. Matviyenko is quite difficult. First of all, of course, she doesn't speak autonomously. Of course, she manifests the position of the Kremlin, and this is sort of, let's say, independent channel to specify, to test new signals, experiments, whatever from the Kremlin. So that was the signal that Kremlin is not ready to implement this passport system. And at the moment, it's quite easy to explain why, but 60% of the Russian quite skeptic about vaccination. People don't trust it, and they see that Putin hasn't vaccinated himself with the domestic vaccine Sputnik 5. So for people, it's still a question of trust. And before it happens, the Kremlin is not ready to open new front line inside Russia with this quite particular sensitive issue covering the whole population of Russia. And here I would like to launch my presentation. So the question to audience: can you see the slides? Not yet, yeah. And now, please, yeah, Ben, I see you, Mark. Yeah, great. Next 15 minutes, I will go through this document you were shared before the meeting. I will. And this is one of the numerous documents explaining the climate energy policy of the Kremlin. And this is one of them. I was the co-author, Ben was right. I will not go through the whole document. I will just pick up 2-3 main pictures to explain the core elements of climate policy of Russia. And here for sure, we have to start with the greenhouse gas emissions dynamic in Russia and its NDC. So this Paris Agreement obligatory goals, national goals provided by Russian government. So at this slide, you can see the dynamic from 2016, where we have 2.6 billion tons of CO2 equivalent issued by Russia to atmosphere. So it's about 5% of global emissions, both from energy and non-energy sector. Just to compare all together, the global emissions about 53 billion tons of CO2 equivalent emissions a year. And you see, to keep the Paris goal track, Russia has to drop dramatically the existing emissions by 2030 and by 2050. So altogether, it's about 4 or 6% annually decrease. Just to compare the lockdown after pandemic in Russia brought to the decrease of CO2 emissions by about energy consumption and decrease relatively about 4%, meaning that the cost of this reduction is compared with the cost of lockdown caused by pandemic. Nevertheless, the obligatory goal of not voluntary goal of Russian Federation by 2030, you see this latest NBC national determined contributions to Paris Agreement goal is about so it's about 3 billion tons, which means Russia to keep the existing level or even increase the emissions by 2030, forecasting the rapid GDP growth next decade, which is totally strange. Let's say it, call it diplomatically. So nevertheless, this is the official position of Russian Federation, as well as a lot of other countries whose ambitions still out of Paris Agreement track. So this is the situation with the Paris Agreement. And coming to the dynamic of greenhouse gas emissions since 1990, when USSR collapsed, Soviet collapse. So we see that it's dramatically decreased in 92, 93 after Soviet economy collapsed. Since that, Russian emissions more or less on the plateau from 2000, having the figures we considered before. And you see the 2008 crisis with the drop of greenhouse gas emission in 2009. And with the COVID, we also will see the sort of go down in the chart, in the graph, which means that Russia has quite good position with the starting point with the implementation of Paris Agreement policy and achievement its goals. As soon as, in spite of GDP growth since 2000, which was about, I think, 25–30%. So Russia close to so-called decouple of GDP growth, where every percent point growth doesn't mean the same positive growth in carbon emission on energy consumption. So it's more or less neutral. And all this GDP growth did mean the dramatic or even neutral growth of energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions growth. At this chart, I would like to draw attention to this green line in the bottom. This is the emissions removals from atmosphere via Russian forest mostly. So altogether, it provides about 500 million tons of CO2 emission annually sink in Russian forest. Russia is about 25% of global forest stocks. So it's considered as a big carbon sink globally. Nevertheless, you see it's cover only about 20–25% of Russian national greenhouse gas emissions. And if you hear or if you listen somebody from officials saying that Russian land onshore forest ecosystem can compensate all Russian, let's say, economy industry emissions. So it's not the truth. So this is official statistics saying that 20% maximum, with quite bad news for the climate. Next few decades, this green line will go up as soon as the dramatic increase of removal potential of Russian forests was connected with the collapse of logging in Russian of Soviet forest industry. So having growing forest industry and growing wildfires in Russia caused both by climate change, making the climate in Russia more droughts, more dry, and practice, let's say, absent of culture of keeping out the fire out of forest of landscape. So altogether, it will bring next decades to raise up this green line up, and maybe it will by middle of century could in some focus the potential of Russian forests for removal emissions from to atmosphere will be neutralized by fires and logging industry. So this is the situation, the thing you have to know. Another thing I think we have to understand. Yeah, very good picture. Last but one. So this is the primary energy mix. If you go to the energy sector particular, so it's out of land use, out of forest, out of agriculture. So here we see have only energy sector. So we see that Russian energy balance mostly present mostly by gas, which is about 53%, more than 50% of all energy total primary energy supply, which means Russian energy pie, energy balance is, let's say, quite green, as soon as, for example, the share of coal in the primary energy supplies about 15%. For example, in Germany, about it was about 40% a few years ago. Please correct me who knows better. For United States, it's also much higher. So we see that, again, starting point of Russian Federation to keep track of Paris Agreement is quite good. But nevertheless, existing Russian policy of Russian Federation quite not friendly, not climate friendly, let's say diplomatically. Russian government continue to consider oil, coal, and gas, oil and coal as a driver of Russian economy and the core of Russian energy balance, meaning that the government is going to continue the subsidized system for coal, oil, and gas, and it's much strongest than subsidy system, subsidization of solar, wind, and other renewable, for example. So this is the bad news. If you speak about the particular figures, so we say, so this is a assessment from different international institutions. We speak about 10 billion USD a year direct subsidies for oil and gas, and about 40 billion USD annual subsidization upstream, and 40 billion USD subsidization of mostly gas and power for the final consumers. So traditionally, the tariffs, the price of energy for final consumption, especially for individuals, is very low. So this is Soviet heritage, where the price for power or for heat, especially for power, is quite cheap. For example, here in Moscow, we pay around half euros, maybe 60 euro cents per kilowatt hour. In Germany, it could be in peak zone, it could be several times more, let's say. So this is the situation with subsidization, and for decades, for next decades, Russian government consider the energy balance the same. So the gas, which will keep its position, even grow. Coal will be stable next decades the same. Oil will go down slightly because of the stocks of cheap oil. The volume of cheap oil reserve stocks is shrinking at the moment. Next decade, we could see 5–10% decrease without subsidy for the oil in oil production. Gas will grow, and gas will substitute oil in transport. So this is one of the project of Russian government to gasify the transport system. For renewable, it's about 3%, including big hydro. So the share will be more or less the same, 3, maybe 3.5% totally. Nuclear, yes, it's one of the key elements of Russian governmental policy. It's also not about energy. It's about international political, let's say, political race and attempt to sell something abroad, like vaccine, Sputnik 5, or nuclear power plants in Turkey and other developing countries, weapon, space. This is the very few things Russian government have to present at the international market, and nuclear is one of that. So it will be heavily subsidized in the future, keeping its share with the existing 7, maybe 8 or 9% in the future, substituting first of all coal, partly gas, and gas will substitute oil. The last slide, last picture I would like to share and explain. It's about intensity of Russian economy. So this is one of the issue which is quite sensitive and recognized by Russian government as extremely need to change something in this field. So this is the figure of energy intensity of a Russian GDP, which is twice higher than G20 average, meaning that Russian energy technologies are very poor. For example, the efficiency of Russian power plants is around 30% averagely, when the existing technology can provide the efficiency more than 50, even 60%. Russia is famous with its insulation of buildings. Who traveled and visited Russia remember that there is no regulation system in the heat system in the building, living built houses. So people just open the window just to regulate temperature inside of usually overheated buildings inside. Same with the heavy industry, with the metallurgic industry, with the cement industry. And this is a huge potential for, let's say, for implementing climate policy in Russia. So the good news is that Russian government recognized that, but the problem that the energy tariffs, the energy cost, energy price in Russia is very, very low. So it's totally not attractive for investors, especially private investors, to go to this sector to invest into energy efficiency, in spite of the recognition that it's extremely needed, especially for national security. Nevertheless, having payback period more than 10 years, banks, private investor is not interested to go here. And the bad news, Russian government is not going to subsidize the system. All the subsidies at the moment go to oil and gas, partly coal, and especially oil and gas in Arctic. So this is, I think, the main strategic mistake of Russian government at this moment, when the government is targeting Arctic as a main national strategic line, with all subsidies, majority of subsidies going there, rather than subsidization of the existing old style infrastructure with very bad energy efficiency, very poor energy efficiency level characteristics. So this is the story about energy efficiency and Arctic, and one of the goal of Greenpeace, the non-governmental organization, just to turn around all this Arctic story towards close to the people, to the energy reforms, to the investment to new green technologies, to transit Russian economy from brown to green. This is the name of this report, developed I think 2 years ago. Okay, hereby I would like to stop the presentation. If we need pictures, I will go back to the presentation, and then have it. I would like to to listen the questions from the audience. Hope was clear from my presentation. I apologize for my poor English, and please specify what was not clear from me. Thank you, Ben.
Vladimir, thank you so much for that fascinating overview. You do not need to apologize for your English. Everything was very clear. So now, Claudia, if we can end the recording.